Hey guys, this is Nick from Financially Aware, and today I want to talk about the huge news of Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway not only buying Barrick Gold, but also selling a whole bunch of banks, including completely getting rid of Goldman Sachs, and what that says about their thinking of the US economy and what that means for gold and silver going forward. I did a video recently about when Warren Buffett bought 130 million ounces of silver back in 1997. But even then, I showed that he was not a fan of silver or gold especially. And in one of his famous speeches in Harvard in 1998, he said, "Gold gets dug out of the ground in Africa or someplace, then we melt it down, dig another hole, bury it again, and pay people to stand around guarding it. It has no utility. Anyone watching from Mars would be scratching their head." Okay, so he says, it's useless, right? He also says that it's basically a gauge of fear. So here he says, gold is a way of going long on fear, and it has been a pretty good way of going long on fear from time to time. But you really have to hope people become more afraid in a year or 2 years than they are now. And if they become more afraid, you make money. If they become less afraid, you lose money. But the gold itself doesn't produce anything. So what he's saying is, if somebody's buying gold, they're buying it because they're expecting things to get worse and therefore make people more fearful in a year or 2 years or whatever number of years going forward. So he put his money where his mouth is, and he's talking about he's expecting people to be more fearful going forward, so he's buying gold. So let's see what he was buying and selling. All these lines in red are things he sold. The line in green is what he bought, and down here at the bottom is the things that he completely got out of. And so you have all the airlines, which he mentioned already, restaurant brands, which is like Burger King, QSR, Goldman Sachs Group, which in 2008, when he gave them that lifeline, he said he loved the company and was going to hold it possibly forever. So I guess that has changed, and he's gotten rid of Occidental Petroleum. Now, just looking at the things he sold versus the things he bought ought to tell you a lot about his thinking and his bullishness or bearishness on the US economy going forward. So all of these things are mostly banks: Wells Fargo, US Bank, Bank of New York, JP Morgan, and M&T, PNC. But look at this. He also got rid of some Visa and MasterCard. Now there's relatively small positions, 575 million out of 10.5 million, or 575,000 out of 10.5 million shares. But these are big winners for him. So why is he selling some of them? Is he lightening up and try to get some profits to offset some of the losses from the banks? Possibly, who knows? But the biggest tell here is the Barrick Gold purchase. And even though it's relatively small at $563 million position for Buffett, that's tiny, and it's only 1.2% of Barrick Gold total. But it's what it says about his thinking of the economy by dumping banks and credit card processors to a lesser extent and starting to get long gold. Now, all of these positions are as of June 30th. So he could have been doing this anywhere from March 31st to June 30th. There's 45 days that any hedge fund manager with more than $100 million under management has 45 days from the end of the quarter to report the change in their holdings. And so today is August 14th. So 44 days, he waited till the exact end of the 45-day period to release his holdings so that he doesn't tip his cards to what he's doing. Why did he do that? Because this might have been just the initial purchase, Barrick Gold. During the last 45 days, he could have been loading up on more Barrick Gold and dumping more banks. Who knows? That's just speculation right now, but I would say the trend is that they are no longer that favorable of banks and the US economy, and they're getting long gold and fear, as he puts it, and he expects way more fear coming our way. The Barrick Gold purchases were made sometime between March 31st, when gold was $15.76, and June 30th, when gold was $17.71. And let's take a look at where Barrick Gold was when he was buying it. Here's a chart of Barrick Gold, and March 31st is right here around $18, and June 30th is up here around $26. So somewhere between $18 and $26 he was loading up on Barrick Gold, and recently it was $26.99, but in the after hours, after this news came out, Barrick Gold was up, I think, 6% or more. So what does this all mean? Is Buffett now going to be stacking silver and buying Bitcoin and loading up on gold and all of that? Not exactly, and these bank sales don't mean necessarily that he is not interested in banks anymore. Matter of fact, in July, these news stories came out that he had increased his stake in Bank of America. He added another $2 billion and brought him up to about $25 billion total in Bank of America. So he is not soured completely on banks. Maybe he's just pruning some of the worst ones and loading up on some of the better ones that he thinks. And just to show you that he's not completely sour on bank stocks, he still has, like I said, $25 billion of Bank of America. This was as of June 30th, $22 billion. But if you add up all of these bank stocks that he sold here, as of March 30th, they were worth $23 billion about. And as of June 30th, after he made his sales, they were worth about $17 billion. So net, he sold around $6 billion worth. But even all of these is still not worth as much as his number one bank holding. So, and he still has a lot of bank holdings. So he's not completely given up on banks. And this small position in Barrick Gold doesn't mean that he is now a super gold and silver and crypto bug either. So what do I think these moves that Buffett has made says about gold, silver, and the economy? Well, look at this quote. 10 years after he made the investment in Goldman Sachs, he said, "When I made that investment in Goldman Sachs, that was not just having confidence in Goldman Sachs, that was also confidence that we would not unnecessarily drive over a cliff without the United States government doing the things it should do." So now that he sold Goldman Sachs, does that mean that he no longer thinks that we're not driving over a cliff? I got to say that selling these banks and buying that little bit of Barrick Gold really speaks volume of what he thinks about the economy. Now, keep in mind that he is not the only person making purchase decisions for Berkshire Hathaway. There's two other investment managers that could have sold some of the banks or could have made that purchase in Barrick Gold. Only time will tell if he reveals who was the decision makers for that. But either way, selling off these banks and buying some gold sends a real signal that things are not as good as they seem. And just looking at the stock market and seeing all-time highs and scratching your head like I've been scratching my head, saying, how is this possible that we have these all-time highs with millions of people unemployed and all these small businesses shut down and they can't pay their rent and people can't pay their mortgages, and so banks are not collecting on their mortgages? I mean, this can't be good for the economy. And once all of this stimulus stops, then you're going to see the real effect. And so I think come Monday, gold and silver are going to see some pretty big moves up just on the speculation of what Warren Buffett is going to do, or what he has done and what they think he's going to do in the future. Now, keep in mind, he's had 45 days since that filing to load up more on any more gold stocks or silver stocks if he wanted to. I'm not saying he did that, but I'm sure most people are going to be thinking that. And so there's going to be all kinds of conspiracies, I'm sure, saying, if you notice, Buffett sold 62% of his stake in JP Morgan. So pretty sure that you're going to see some kind of conspiracy saying he sold his stake in JP Morgan so he can, I don't know, drive silver up to bankrupt JP Morgan, or he's going to corner the silver market or something like that. Don't go crazy believing all these rumors, but I'm a big believer in don't listen to what they say, but watch what they do. And Warren Buffett has been consistently saying, don't bet against America. He also said in 2019, the magical metal has no match for the American metal. Does he still believe that? I'm not so sure anymore. But like I said, watch what he does, not what he says. And so to me, him selling these banks and even buying this small piece of this gold stock, he doesn't buy things for the short term. So he's expecting that the so-called fear is going to increase in the next 1 or 2 years or more going forward. That's why he bought the gold. So if he really believes that, I would guess that he would be buying more of precious metals, mining companies, and that kind of thing, if that's what he now believes. And to me, it seems a little bit like if you're in a plane and you got all this turbulence coming, like the economy that we have, the shutdown, the turbulence, and you hear the pilot come over the air and say, hey, passengers, everything is fine. We just hit a few bumpy patches, but everything's going to be fine. It's no problem at all, right? And he kind of eases your worries. But then after he gets off the mic, you see him come out of the cockpit and he's putting on a parachute. In that case, you listen to not his words, but his actions. And so to me, it seems Warren Buffett is maybe starting to put on a parachute. I don't know. I'm not trying to get everybody scared, but I think this is bearish for the U.S. economy and bullish for gold and silver. So this small pullback in gold and silver, I think, is probably going to be short-lived, and I think it has a good more room to run, and even Warren Buffett seems to think so. So that's my video. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment on what you think his moves say about his belief in the economy and in gold and silver. And as always, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe now, and thank you for watching.